What do people misunderstand when it comes to having a powerful vision for your life and your future? And how do you actually activate a vision so clear, so strong that it helps you design a life that feels really authentic and inspired and meaningful to you? That is exactly what we were going to talk about, my friends. So, if that speaks to you, if you want to feel like you have a direction that you're aiming towards in your life that feels aligned, stick around. And if you're new to me, I'm Gina Casparo, the host of the Follow Your Spark podcast, and I am so glad you're here. Okay, so when I was thinking about this podcast episode, I decided to pull an oracle card spread for it, which I do often for many things. And today I'm using this Earthcraft deck. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see what deck I am using. So the questions that I asked three questions. One of them was, what do people misunderstand about vision? And then I asked, what does the universe, what does spirit want us all to know about having a vision? And how can people activate their vision? These are the three questions that I asked. So, I want to say, if you're not familiar with oracle cards, if you don't use them, maybe you've used tarot cards, maybe you haven't used any. For me, these are really a tool for accessing intuitive wisdom, accessing ideas from the universe, from spirit, to really be a clear channel and receptacle to inner wisdom, to guidance. And you can ask any question that you want and really open up and see what's coming up. And you can read the card interpretation. You can also see what that inspires inside of you. And I'm sharing this because I talk so much about logic and intuition. Maybe you listened to, I think it was last week's podcast, I talked about the masculine and feminine and how both of these energies, we can use them both and harmonize them together to really help us activate a vision by using both logic and intuition. So I teach so much about intuition to my coaching clients. I want to share with all of you a little bit more how I use these tools so that you can start experimenting with them in your own life to gain intuitive guidance and wisdom. Okay, so the first question, like I said, I asked was, what do people misunderstand about vision? And I pulled this card. It's called the Spirit of the South. And if you can't see this and you're not watching this, it is like a fiery card. It has a hand raised up to the sun and all these yellows and reds and oranges. So, this card, I'm going to share some key points about the description, and then I'm going to share my interpretation of this. So, this card is about the element of fire. It initiates you into expansion, radiance, action, and rapid change. This card signifies a need to head towards your soul's purpose without further delay or distraction. We all have a purpose to fulfill. The universe sends us little nudges and messages letting us know which direction to take. And it's up to us to be aware of these messages and act accordingly. The universe will give you plenty of time to change directions if you head off course. And if you ignore the messages or warnings, spirit must step in and burn through all that leads you astray. This card is a final warning that some changes must occur in your life. If you continue to ignore these warnings, a fire will manifest in your life as chaos and destruction until you come back to your purpose. Embrace the gifts of the South, and you will find the motivation and fiery passion to burn straight through your obstacles. So, this card, when I thought about what does that mean when I asked the question, what do people misunderstand about vision? So, what came up for me is that I think one thing that people misunderstand is that they think change should feel easy. And what I've seen happen sometimes is that people are receiving sparks, they're receiving messages, they might have ideas or inspiration about something, and then they choose not to follow them for whatever variety of reasons. They might feel like they're not ready, or they don't have the right circumstances, there's not enough time, there's not enough money. They're waiting for the circumstances to feel more comfortable in order to follow that spark. And the universe wants you to grow. It wants you to move forward. It wants to propel you out of your comfort zone. So if you are refusing to move, sometimes the universe needs to shake some shit up in order to get you going on your path. So, like I said, I think one thing that people misunderstand about vision is that it should be easy, there shouldn't be any obstacles, it should just feel natural in order to like take that next step that you're being called towards should feel easeful. And it doesn't always feel easeful. Sometimes it feels challenging. Sometimes it feels like it takes something for us to overcome something in order to move forward. I always think about this that one of my spiritual teachers and dear friends, Jamie Alvarez Acosta, I was in Peru with him many years ago, and I was complaining about something in my life or talking about something in my life that I was having a hard time with. And I said, I'm so sick and tired of whatever it was I was talking about. I don't even remember at this moment. And he was like, that's great. It is great to be so sick and tired of something because oftentimes that's a moment that can be a catalyst for change because it motivates you to do something. That's what I find really compels people to change. Either you're sick and tired of something enough, or the desire is strong enough. So you get to choose which one you would rather. If you would rather be in circumstances that drive you to the point of being sick and tired, or you turn up the dial on the sparks of desire and let that propel you in a particular direction. And there's no judgment. I've been in both situations and I think they're both a part of life. Oftentimes we learn what we do want sometimes by experiencing what we don't. And I think that can be an extremely valuable lesson as well. So another thing that's related to this that I feel like people misunderstand, and it's similar of experiencing an obstacle or something that doesn't feel good or doesn't feel aligned and making it mean that you're off track or you've made a mistake. And like I said, sometimes you need to know what's a no in order to find out what's a yes. So for example, for me, I went to college and studied advertising because I thought this was like a good mix of creativity and psychology and things that I was interested in. And this is also something that felt like an adult job from my perception of at 18 or whatever. And then when I graduated college at 20 and I started working in advertising, I quickly realized this is not aligned with anything that's actually important to me. And I was working overtime and I was really stressed out. And then I had a friend who moved to South Korea to teach English. And they invited me and encouraged me, why don't you come out here? And I was just like, no, no, no. I couldn't possibly, I have a job, I have a life. I couldn't possibly do that. And then I sat with it more and more and more. And I was just like, why not? And I remember having a conversation with my dad that he asked me, what's the worst that can happen? You hate it and you come home. Can you handle that? Okay. So being able to think about what's the worst thing that can happen and what's the best thing that can happen. So I did eventually quit that job and move to South Korea to teach English. And other things I will say about that time period when I was working in advertising, and I can't remember the exact timeline of these events. And what I do know is during those, I think, 2 years that I worked at that agency in Miami, I tore my ACL skiing. My first and last time skiing, I tore my ACL. And I was out of commission for a little while at work. And there were promotions that became available that I didn't go after because I was healing and recuperating from this injury. And I remember at the time feeling very devastated. And again, I see that as partially this example of spirit of like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing anyways. Like, you're not supposed to be climbing this ladder. You're not supposed to be chasing these goals. So we're going to slow you down so that you have time to think about what you actually want or time to feel into that. And it was in that time frame too that the opportunities about South Korea, that possibility, that seed was planted in my mind. And at that agency, we had an in-office gym, and that was the first time that I experienced yoga. And I started taking yoga classes and I fell in love with it. And when I got back from Korea, that's when I was recruited by Lululemon because I was at a yoga event. And I don't know if that would have happened if all those things in my life hadn't happened in that way. So coming back to, if it ever feels like you're at a point in your life that doesn't feel quote unquote on track, on your path, it feels somehow out of alignment and you're making it mean you've somehow taken a wrong turn or things have gone wrong or you've messed something up in some way, I really invite you to trust that even redirections are valuable. Even dead ends are valuable. They're giving you information about what is a yes for you and what is a no for you. Maybe in a very visceral way. Like maybe you're going through a very painful circumstance right now and you're getting a lot of information about what is a yes and what is a no. And I hear this so often from my coaching clients of, what helped you all of a sudden stop people pleasing and use your voice? What helped you make that decision to leave your job? And oftentimes it was from experiencing the extremes of the painful circumstances and feeling like, no more. I will not tolerate that anymore. And then having a taste of what they do want or what they desire, or even being able to feel into that and feeling that contrast and letting that be what motivates them to say no to something that they know they really don't want and say yes to something that they do. So, wherever you're at in this moment, whether it feels like life is on track, quote unquote, on track, aligned, everything's beautiful, or you're going through something really difficult, all of that is valuable information. Last thing about this, I want to share that what people misunderstand about this vision is I think sometimes people are waiting for things to just happen. And this is related to like it should be easy, but I really hear from this is like we have a choice. We have a choice in how we co create our lives with spirit, with the universe, if we listen to these messages or if we ignore them. So to know that it's up to us to be the co-creators of our life, to make choices, to take action that sometimes feel hard, that sometimes feel uncomfortable. It's like the universe rewards us. Just trying to think of a quote, and I remembered it. It's from Shakti Gawain that says, "The universe will reward you for taking risks on its behalf." Slash your behalf, right? We're all the same, we're all connected. And I really do believe that we will be rewarded for taking risks. We will be rewarded for following the sparks on our hearts. It's up to us to be co-creators with the universe. It's not just going to happen magically, even though sometimes things can feel very magical when we're in alignment. It's also up to us to be the co-creators of that. So the next question I asked was, what does spirit want people to know about vision? And I pulled this card called Ceremony. And if you can't see it, it's this beautiful woman in prayer. Her chakras are kind of lit up. It looks very magical. And this card talks about ceremony is a marked occasion that invites you to slow down, bring magic, tradition, and sacred intention into your otherwise mundane routine. Ceremonies create an energetic space where you can turn inward to connect with your inherent magic, taking the time to prepare and do things right, like a caterpillar spinning itself into a chrysalis. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly every day and is in no rush. He takes his time and follows the proper steps. And when his transformational rite of passage is complete, he spreads his wings to share his magic with the world remade. This card guides you to prioritize moments of sacredness. You may be rushing a goal or taking shortcuts in an effort to see results, only to find yourself taking one step forward and two steps back. Having a ceremonial practice is a way of slowing down and allowing the proper time for your magic to brew. Take some time to connect with your goals in a sacred way by adding small elements of ceremony into your life, maybe by lighting candles while researching a project, dedicating a specific journal where you write details for your plan, making a special tea to blend and drink solely as you work on a goal. I was just like, oh my God, is this perfect? Yes. So, what does spirit want people to know about vision? One thing I really heard from this card is the importance of creating this sacred space, this sacred container to dream, to imagine. And I feel like I've been talking about this on and on and on in the podcast lately of that it can take something to pause the busyness and distractions of everyday life and actually ask ourselves, what does your heart desire? What direction do you really want to go? Are you listening to these sparks on your heart? And making the space to listen, I find is so critical, so crucial. It's like if you are having a conversation with your friend at dinner and they're on their phone and they're not paying attention to you. It's like, are you going to want to talk to that person? Are you going to want to share things with them? No, probably not. And I feel like sometimes That's what's coming to me right now about the universe and spirit. It's like if we're just ignoring spirit, if we're ignoring the universe, if we're ignoring the signs, A, we're not going to see them. B, we might not receive as much of them as we could. So, this is the power of ceremony. This is the power of creating sacred time and space to declare, I'm listening. I'm listening to you so deeply. It's like if you can imagine that same friend, the phone is away, they're leaning forward, their like eyes are so on you, they're quiet, they're just like, tell me more. What else? What else is there? That's the energy of being in ceremony for me. And spirit is the friend that is talking to you. And the second that you say, I'm listening, so many things can come in because you are now capable and open of receiving them. So for vision, I see so much of vision of just like these little sparks, these signs, these breadcrumbs that are guiding us on our path. And I've talked a lot about vision like a North Star. And again, it's like the difference between the sky is clear and you can see that North Star clearly, or the sky is totally clouded and you can't see anything. So that's the power of ceremony. It clears the sky so that you can see your North Star. You can see these sparks that are asking to be followed. And another thing that I heard from this of what does spirit want you to know about vision is that things can take time. And this is something that I know for sure I have struggled with hardcore of patience, of trusting the process, of letting go of judgment of how long things are taking. And sometimes when I'm talking to clients or we're talking about their goals, maybe they have entrepreneurial goals, maybe they have other goals. And I feel like we can be so inundated on social media right now in so many different ways of like, make 100K in a month, in 6 months, whatever, like reach some epic goal in a very short time frame. And while can that happen? Sure. Of course, people can reach massive goals in short time frames. And I think that messaging can be so toxic, so detrimental because I think sometimes things do take time. And to be able to not make that mean anything negative about you or about the process, and to really let go of judgment of pace, and to ask yourself, why are you on this journey to begin with? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why do you want to do or create anything in your life? And are you willing to go on the journey? Are you willing to stick with it if it takes longer than 6 months, if it takes longer than 6 years? Are you willing to stick with it? And why is being on the journey so valuable? And I think that the more we can embrace the journey instead of rush the destination, the easier time we will have, the more enjoyable time we will have if we can trust that process. Okay, the other thing I loved about what this said is it said, take some time to connect with your goals in a sacred way by adding elements of ceremony into your life. And I was just like, oh my God, this is exactly what I do at all of my workshops. This is exactly what we'll do together at Activate Your Vision, a workshop I have coming up on August 13th. I always give people guidance on how to create a sacred space even before we all jump in the Zoom room together so that you can really signify to yourself, to spirit, I am creating this sacred container. Maybe that means lighting a candle. Maybe that means pouring a particular cup of tea. All of these things can be rituals to signify to yourself something special is happening right now. And I personally have so many journals for so many different things of capturing different insights. And imagine having a journal dedicated to your vision. And anytime you get an idea, a spark of a dream, a breadcrumb, you're writing things down in this journal. Maybe you're doodling, maybe you're collaging, maybe you're just writing, and it becomes this sacred magic portal. And you can even envision of like me writing these things down is writing something into existence. There's so much magic that we can infuse in our physical surroundings that we can use to co-create, that can become tools of creation. And we can make something special simply by declaring that it is. This doesn't have to be an expensive journal. It can literally be a journal from the dollar store, and it can be transformed simply by your intention and how you relate to it. So I love that. And if you're listening to this and you want time to create sacred ceremony, space to dream and imagine your vision, come join us for Activate Your Vision. Like I said, it's on August 13th. You can get all the details on RSVP at ginakesbar.com/vision. So the next card, the last card I asked was, how can people activate their vision? And I pulled this card called the thunderstorm. And it's interesting. I feel like one of my favorite emojis is a lightning bolt. And this question was, how can people activate their vision? And it is literally a man dancing in a rainstorm, getting activated by a lightning bolt. So that felt pretty appropriate. And this card talks about, it says, it can feel like the end of the world with the rain pouring down, visceral booming thunderclaps, jagged streets of lightning splitting up the sky. Moments in our life can feel like this too, when change is so thorough and complete that we can't do anything else but surrender and trust all will be well in the end. These storms ultimately clear the air and make space for better clarity and focus. Rude awakenings bring clarity to the consequences of our actions or lack of action. Beliefs and values you hold dear are put to the test to determine whether or not they're strong enough to hold you as you transcend to your next level. The thunderstorm card is a warning that you are or soon will be in the midst of significant change and upheaval. This is the time to put faith in the higher power and trust in Mother Earth. Events may be out of your control, and you can decide how you navigate this storm. Trust that what is taken from you will be replaced, and what is lost is only what you don't need. Woof. So, this card, like I said, was an answer to the question, how can people activate their vision? And one of the biggest things I heard in all of this was surrender. Can you surrender and trust when storms arise in your life? Sometimes they are there to clear and cleanse you and wash away what you no longer need. And when this is airing in August 2026, we are right around the Lionsgate portal. We are in this eclipse portal, and I'm hearing from so many people just a lot of emotions being stirred up, a lot of what can feel like chaos being stirred up. And I have for sure been experiencing this myself the past week. And I feel like I've been waving my white flag of just like, I surrender. I surrender to this experience right now. Please, God, help me navigate this moment to the best of my ability. And one thing I've been thinking about is, and I talk about emotions all the time with clients because I feel like this is one of the number one things that people can misunderstand and that can hold people back is that so often as human beings, we can resist emotions. We can make ourselves wrong for experiencing big emotions, whether grief, shame, disappointment, fear, anxiety, etc. And when we do that, when we judge ourselves, when we're critical of ourselves for feeling emotions, for me, oh my gosh, it feels like this like pressure cooker, like I'm being strangled and I'm like about to explode. And inevitably, it comes out. It cannot be suppressed in that way. It will come out in some way, shape, or form. So the more I've learned to lean into and embrace when I'm feeling big emotions, whether challenging emotions or beautiful emotions, the more capacity I have to hold those things, it's like I can take a deep breath, even if I'm crying. I literally did an energy dance ceremony a couple of days ago where I just like screamed and cried for basically an hour. And it was just like, wow, this is really cathartic. And then I did some journaling and did some drawing practices and opened up to the intuitive messages that were there for me in that moment. And I talk about this a lot the past year of just what has opened up in my life since I've been actively practicing in a new way, letting go of self-judgment. Because when you let go of self-judgment, for me, the experience is so much freedom. It's an ability to look at myself with so much more love and compassion and grace, and also objective observation, and just be willing to learn and be willing to grow and be willing to evolve when I don't make myself wrong for how I'm feeling, who I'm being, what I'm experiencing. So, all of this to say is I really believe that a big part of activating your vision is being willing to feel your feelings, whatever they are, and to trust that, yes, sometimes big chaotic storms can blow through our lives. And again, that doesn't mean that anything has gone wrong. And I know that it can be extremely challenging sometimes to navigate those storms and the depth of those emotions. And this is why I do this kind of somatic embodiment work with my coaching clients on coaching calls. So I get it, this can feel heavy sometimes. So for sure, if you need support with this, reach out for support, whether it's therapy, coaching, come to Sparkle Space if you're in Baltimore. We'll hold space for you to scream and cry and do whatever you need to do. And yes, for sure, it can be so helpful to have and feel like you have a safe container to feel and experience big emotions. So what can help you activate your vision is surrender, trusting the process, feeling your feelings. Another huge lesson I've been experiencing lately that feels related to this is there's different areas of my life where I've been trying to feel into what is it that I desire for this area of my life. And while some things feel clear, some things don't. And it's felt like I'm at a moment in time where one part of me is like, you need to decide something. This uncertainty feels uncomfortable. You need to either go this way or that way. And it's been this immense tension, like I feel like tectonic plates, like a volcano about to erupt. And while my logical brain, or primitive brain, maybe, probably a more accurate place that this is coming from, is signaling danger signs and doesn't want to be here in this confusion state or in this liminal state of the unknown. I feel that. And then I feel my intuition when I've sat with it time and time again. And the message keeps coming through of breathe, stay here. There's something here for you. Trust this process, trust this unfolding. There's nothing that needs to be decided right now. You don't need to draw a line in the sand so that you can have certainty. That's not what's going to serve you right now. Can you simply be with this moment with as much presence, with as much curiosity as possible, and trust the path that you're on? Because I was thinking about this, that the North Star, is in the sky, right? And there's different ways that you can walk towards that North Star. There's different terrain that you could take. You could go left, you could go right, and you could come back around and you're still aiming towards that North Star. So instead of thinking like, I must get this right, I must walk the one perfect path in the direction that I'm supposed to go, it's like, no, life is a journey. And like all these cards have been saying, spirit will send us signs if we're truly going in a direction that isn't aligned with our soul's purpose, our soul's path, what would serve our highest good. We will get messages, especially if you're listening, especially if you take time aside and create sacred space to invite those messages in. So, the biggest lesson I am receiving right now is to trust the process, allow the storm to come and wash me clean, and trust my ability to be strong and grounded and steady in this storm, and trust my ability, trust my compass to follow this North Star, and to remember that I cannot get off track. I cannot be led astray. I do 100% trust the path that I'm on. I trust my inner guidance. And I get that sometimes we need to go through hard circumstances or challenging circumstances or painful circumstances in order to learn something extremely valuable. So I am doing my best to embrace all of it. And that's truly when I've found the most ease, the most peace in my life. Even if things feel chaotic, I can still feel this inner calm. this inner acceptance when I'm able to be the calm inside of the storm. So that is the message I want to share with you today. And I also want to read this thunderstorm card had an invocation, and I want to share it with you. So if you're listening to this and you're not in a car, maybe close your eyes, maybe let these words wash over you wherever you are. So the invocation says, that which will shake my spirit from its core shall uncover the truths within my being. I am present for the becoming of all that I am meant to experience, for it will mold me into the person I am meant to be. I am ready for thunder to greet the storm, brewing from the depth of my bones. All right, my friends, I am sending this message to you wherever you are. That's another thing with intuition. I just trust that this message will land with whoever needs to hear it. And if you, like I said, are craving this time and space to explore vision further, come join us for Activate Your Vision, August 13th, ginakesbar.com/vision. You can get all the details there and RSVP. I would love to be in sacred space with you and hear about what are the sparks on your heart calling you forward now. All right, my friend, sending you so much love. I'll talk to you soon.